It's that time again where I pick a random YouTube video and react to it. This time, it's called The Baffling Economics of the Xbox. It's from Logically Answered, 593,000 subscribers. Let's see what it's all about. So first things first, be sure to go check out the link in the description of this particular channel. Let's get right into it.
After years of hiding unit sales data for the Xbox One, in 2022, Microsoft finally decided to release official sales numbers for the console, and they were rather disappointing. Throughout the Xbox One's lifetime, Microsoft was only able to sell a total of 58 million consoles, which in isolation is a great number. But in comparison to the competition and
So a little bit of context here. If you haven't heard, the Xbox One era was basically the era where Xbox almost went out of business. One of the first videos I made about Xbox on the channel was the one talking about how Phil Spencer basically, sorry for the squeaky mic every time I move it, how Phil Spencer basically was given the opportunity to turn Xbox around or let it go by the wayside. And he has been dedicated to improving the console since. Xbox One, especially that beginning era, was one of the worst Xbox eras. Let's continue on.
the Xbox's own predecessors, the number is rather underwhelming. For perspective, the PS4, which had an identical lifespan, was able to sell exactly double units at 117 million. Even the PS5, which released just 3 years ago, is at 46.6 million units and is on track to overtake the Xbox One in terms of sales. The Xbox Series X/S was supposed to be the console that finally turned around this trend for Microsoft, but it seems like the disparity is only getting worse. In fact, looking at global
Yeah, it's because the console market's dying. We had Michael Pachter on the channel not that long ago, and the console market's flat. Like you kind of hit this plateau, and maybe it grows by like 1 or 2%. But the fact of the matter is, more people are playing gaming on mobile devices. More people are gaming on even Samsung televisions. There's more avenues to access games than ever before, and the console market's going to stagnate, and eventually technology is going to catch up with everything, and the console is not going to be necessary. Do I think the console market will go away? No, I always think there will be a plastic box for everybody to play their games on, but I think eventually we need to wake up to this idea that mobile phones are going to catch up with consoles at someday, and Xbox knows that, PlayStation knows that, PlayStation knows they need to be releasing their games on more platforms. Let's continue on. Also, VG charts, I never use VG charts as a source. They had questionable data collections. They've gotten it wrong so many times. I never use them, but let's continue on.
monthly sales, it appears that the Xbox is already starting to lose steam while the PS5 is actually gaining steam. Now, it's true that Nintendo has had consoles that have flopped way harder, like the Wii U, which barely sold at 13 million units. But there's a major difference between a Nintendo console flopping and a Microsoft console flopping. You see, 57% of Nintendo's total earnings come from hardware sales, meaning that they are very much capable of selling a niche console and still coming out on top financially. The same, however, cannot be said about Microsoft,
Microsoft's profit margin is from subscription services. I'm betting that this person gets there, but yeah, I mean, they make their money off of Game Pass and subscriptions and selling games and all those other things. I'm curious where the economics fall apart. One of the things, like, console sales don't matter that much to me at the end of the day. It's an interesting statistic, but I'm more curious about your profit margin per game release, etc. Anyway, let's continue on.
who sells the Xbox for a loss. And this isn't speculation either. Microsoft's gaming CEO Phil Spencer has admitted that every single Xbox Series X/S console is sold for a loss of up to $200. Since then, Microsoft has hiked the price of the Series X in certain regions by less than $100. But even assuming that Microsoft only loses $100 per console on average, the Xbox Series X and S have already lost the company over $2 billion.
Well, okay. 2 billion might seem like a lot to most of us, right? Microsoft's $1 trillion company. So a $2 billion loss, I don't know if that's as bad as, that doesn't sound as dire as I think it would. I mean, it's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but they're, they do sell their consoles at a loss.
And it hasn't gained Microsoft any market share or notoriety over the PlayStation or...
No, I think that's BS. I think, sorry, I definitely think there's a lot more interest in what Xbox is doing, especially post Activision Blizzard. Everybody has recognized the value of Game Pass. I disagree with that sentiment, maybe from a console perspective, but I do think there are signs of a shift happening for sure. Anyway.
Even the Switch. It doesn't seem like Microsoft is willing to give up though, as they're throwing one last Hail Mary with their $69 billion acquisition.
Again, I don't think that's their last Hail Mary. They have said that they're planning on more acquisitions. So just some of the phrasing, like I don't think anything he's saying is particularly wrong, but he's saying like, this is their last Hail Mary. It's like, how are you defining that? Anyway, let's continue on.
Of Activision Blizzard. But will this acquisition actually turn things around for Xbox, or has Microsoft just dug themselves into a $69 billion deeper hole?
Of course it's gonna help them. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course it's going to help them. They're literally going to release all the Activision games on every platform, so their competitors are going to give them money. Yes, I think the Activision deal will pay for itself in 5 years. If it even takes that long. Just the Call of Duties alone. Anyway.
Hole. To understand why the modern Xbox is struggling, we have to first understand how the Xbox...
Some of that's I shot. Some of that was IGN B-roll. Let's see it again.
To understand why the...
That one's not mine. That is Red's, I want to say.
Modern Xbox is struggling. We have to first understand...
Maybe I'm incorrect. I don't want to go out on... I don't want to say it's ours. Maybe it's his.
And how the Xbox grew in popularity...
A very, very similar set.
In the first place. And that takes us all the way back to March 2nd, 1999, the day that the PlayStation 2 was announced. If you didn't know, the PlayStation 2 would go on to be the best-selling console of all time, selling over 155 million units. Hearing this, a lot of you are probably inclined to think that the Xbox was an offensive move from Microsoft. They saw how successful the...
It's so... I think this is their original B-roll, but I've shot B-roll that looks a lot like this, so it's just kind of like, it's cool. Anyway. Good work on your B-roll, whoever made this.
The PS2 was, and they wanted a piece of the pie. But that's actually not how things played out. It turns out that the Xbox was actually more of a defensive move. You see, the PS2 wasn't just a gaming console. It was actually more of a multimedia device, something that Sony has only built on over the years. It could play CDs and DVDs, and Microsoft began to fear that this would allow Sony to eat into their personal computer market share. So Microsoft decided to flex on Sony by showcasing their own multimedia technology suite, DirectX. DirectX is basically the middleman in Windows machines that interprets code and translates it into graphics and sound. DirectX was not only robust and reliable,
don't install the Bing bar. Never install the add-on garbage.
But it was familiar to developers because given that it was from Microsoft, it worked seamlessly with Windows 2000. So Microsoft decided to just port Windows 2000 and DirectX into a dedicated gaming console called the DirectXbox, or Xbox for short. And the pitch for developers was that developing games for the Xbox would be similar to developing PC games, and the pitch worked. Alongside the launch of the original Xbox on November 15, 2001, we would see the launch of a legendary gaming series, Halo. And this brings us into the first factor that made Xbox so successful: iconic exclusive games. Naturally, a lot of gamers hate exclusive games because it forces them to buy multiple consoles just to play all of the best games on the market. But from a corporate perspective, exclusive games are critical when it comes to building a loyal fan base and boosting sales. Microsoft understood this perfectly, as the Xbox was...
He's setting up the premise here, but By the way, this edit's great. His footage is great. I'm like really impressed with the B-roll. I thought it was our B-roll. It's his, I think. Um, so this person clearly knows there's, I guess he has like 600,000 subs, right? So he knows what he's doing. My thought was though, and one thing I don't think people realize is that era, the PS2, Xbox One era, what was happening during that time, strategies have changed. So anytime that you're setting a base with, for lack of a better term, the reality we were living in when the PS2 and Xbox One launched, it's just like the iPhone wasn't invented yet. The internet has gone so far beyond what that was at that time that things are just different. Like we can literally stream games on our television without a box anymore. So I'm curious about this setup and where he's going with it. The journey's great though.
Was initially defined by a slew of exclusive games and series like Halo, Forza, The Witcher, Left 4 Dead, Call of Duty 2, Elder Scrolls 3, and Doom 3, just to name a few. But over the years, this list has gotten smaller and smaller to the point that Xbox Series X and S exclusives can be counted on one hand. It's basically just Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, Starfield, and Microsoft Flight
I mean, no, this seems not right. Like, is he, what? Gears? Like, do you just not count any of the franchises from the companies they purchased? I'm a little confused by this. Anyway.
Simulator. I suspect that most simulator fans would prefer to play Microsoft Flight Simulator on a PC. So the Xbox really only has Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, and Starfield going for it. When you look at the games,
What? What? Is he discounting it because you can play it on PC? I'm a little confused by that. Hold on. Let me just bring something up here. Xbox game exclusive. They own the Fable franchise, the Gears franchise. Stalker is going to be an upcoming exclusive. All the Bethesda games, like Elder Scrolls, is going to be exclusive. In the future, Sea of Thieves. Yeah, just looking at some of the names here, Hellblade exclusive. Well, let's let him continue on, but I find it a little strange.
that are exclusive to or optimized for the PS5, on the other hand, you have all of these. Considering this, it's no wonder why the
The PlayStation, I know.
PlayStation and the Switch have been crushing the Xbox. Both of them have a bunch of exclusive titles that make the console worth owning, unlike the Xbox. But how did Microsoft even end up in this situation? Wasn't the Xbox supposed to be the easiest console to develop for because of its similarities with Windows? Well, it turns out that that by itself was not enough.
Well, if you're talking about then, it was easier. Now I think it's harder.
One of the biggest
Xbox One,
factors
yeah.
holding back developers from preferring the Xbox over the PlayStation is its discrepancy in performance. The PlayStation has historically always been more powerful than the Xbox, but this extra power also came with a higher price tag. The Xbox 360, for example, launched at $400, while the PS3 launched at $500 to $600. Adjusting for
Yeah, so I've actually said many times that I think we're coming full circle and things are starting to go back to this era where Sony didn't quite have it right. And anyway, let's just see what he has to say.
inflation, the PS3 cost as much as $880. So the Xbox was able to reach a demographic that the PlayStation may have never reached, making it worth it to develop Xbox games. But over the years, Sony has slightly pulled back their prices while Microsoft has slightly pushed up their prices.
No, what? What? What's he talking about? PlayStation was the first to go to 70. They were the first to raise their console prices. Maybe he's talking about the Xbox One launch when the Xbox was more expensive.
such that the PlayStation and Xbox are pretty much identically priced.
Okay.
But while the price of the consoles are the same cannot be said about their performance. The PS4 was objectively more powerful than the Xbox, in fact,
True.
as much as 40% more powerful. This disparity has only been exacerbated by the new generation of consoles, because Microsoft has gone out of their way to launch a lower-end Xbox called the
I mean, that's that's a little weird. Like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 in terms of power are very close. The S is like the mid-generation unit.
Series S, which game developers aren't exactly a fan of. They're basically having to nerf their games and the graphics to accommodate for the Series S. In fact, some games have even been delayed because developers have had a tough time nerfing performance for the Series S without sacrificing performance for the Series X. This is rather annoying even as a secondary release, so I think you can see why developers are hesitant to bet on an exclusive flagship on the Xbox. But the whole rivalry between the PlayStation and the Xbox only tells half the story, because there's very much a dark horse at play: PC gaming. Remember how one of the biggest advantages of the Xbox originally was its similarities to PC? It was easy to port games from PC to Xbox and vice versa. Well, this has actually turned into a massive disadvantage, because now there is no such thing as a true Xbox exclusive. Basically every
How is that a disadvantage? How is that a disadvantage in any way? PlayStation is scrambling to figure out, maybe scrambling is not the right word. PlayStation is trying to figure out how to make more money off of their console releases, and they're trying to figure out a mobile strategy and a PC strategy and a release strategy. Like, I really think the entire premise around this is built around console sales and console profit margins. So like a lot of the arguments are somewhat flawed, and it's really throwing me off, like buying into the premise about the monetization. I'm gonna watch this part again really quick. 1 sec.
There is no such thing as a true Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, that's if you're installed, like the PlayStation 5 install base is 50 million units, right? Let's say the Xbox is 20 million units. We know they're not selling as well. I think it's like 30 million units though. So 30 million consoles that you can sell any game that comes on Xbox to. Oh, plus the PC market, which is like 100, 200, 300 million. Let's say it's like 100 million hardware. Uh like current gen hardware, and it's probably more than that. How is that a disadvantage in any way when Xbox is releasing day and date on PC versus PlayStation, who's releasing to an, especially if they release a PlayStation 5 only game, you're only releasing to a potential market of 50 million players. Let's say your sell through percentage is 50%. That's 25 million copies on a good day, right? I versus Xbox, like let's say Xbox and their 130 million unit install base, let's say they sell 1%. They've sold, I'm bad at math. Point is, you have to have a smaller sell through rate because you have a larger install base on Xbox versus PlayStation. So I'm a little confused by how that's a disadvantage.
Basically every Xbox exclusive is also available on PC. This wasn't a
That's not a problem. That's a good thing. Consumers having more choices is positive. I never want PlayStation to go away. I want consumers to have that as a choice. And because it's been very clear that PlayStation being around has pushed Xbox to do better, and hopefully vice versa will happen. I mean, we'll see, but let's continue on.
big deal back in the 2000s and early 2010s because only the super nerds with massive budgets gamed on PC. But ever since the launch of AMD Ryzen, building PCs has become a lot more budget friendly and popular. This trend has only been accelerated by the explosion of esports, which has made PC gaming cooler than ever. What does this all mean, you ask? Well, if you really want to play Microsoft exclusive games, it often just makes more sense to get a PC. The PC can not only run the games much better, but it can also do a lot more than just gaming. If all of that wasn't bad enough, the Xbox
Why is it bad? That's not bad. Uh, That's the part where I just don't agree. Look, consoles are such an old idea. How many of you still have a freaking DVD player? None of you? Okay. Maybe some of you have a Blu-ray player, but it's the same concept, right? Technology goes forward. And we're seeing it already with all these manufacturers dropping the disc drive. The new PlayStation 5 doesn't even have a disc drive, so physical media is sort of a thing of the past. Anyway, um, to phrase more option as bad is it's incorrect, especially when the company that you're referencing, PlayStation, is trying to figure out that revenue stream to make more money. Anyway,
Xbox has been facing another major obstacle as well, which is the larger interests of Microsoft. Since the launch of the original Xbox, Microsoft has grown from a few $100 billion company to a few $1 trillion company. And considering that prosecutors wanted to break up Microsoft back when they were just a few $100 billion company, Microsoft is now a larger target than ever. So the last thing they want
no one's trying to break up Microsoft, though. Like, that's not a current thing happening, as far as I know.
to do is show off monopolistic tendencies by launching a bunch of exclusive games just to win over the gaming market. In fact, Satya Nadella has gone on record stating that he wants to end Xbox exclusives and that the ball is now in Sony's court. But if that's the case,
And it sounds like Sony might be leaning towards that.
why in the world did Microsoft complete their biggest acquisition of all time and spend $69 billion to buy Activision Blizzard?
Because your competitors want those games, they're gonna make. Feel like I'm taking crazy pills, y'all. They're gonna make money because all those games are still gonna release on your rivals' platforms. They want to extend the amount of platforms that Call of Duty releases on because it's such a big revenue win. Like, have you looked at the Diablo Immortal numbers? It's probably more profitable than Diablo 4. That's why. And they've said publicly it's about the mobile market. And if you look at the mobile market, it's the biggest growth opportunity for gaming. That's why PlayStation's trying to catch up. Anyway. The economics aren't that confusing to me.
From a general sense, it's obvious why Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard. It's obviously to control a larger portion of the gaming market and make more money. But if we take a closer look at the acquisition and see how Microsoft executives talk about it, we'll see that the acquisition is less of an expansion play and more of a pivot play. And we can take it from the horse's mouth itself, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer. When asked about the reasoning behind the Activision Blizzard acquisition, Phil said, quote, "The biggest gaming platform on the planet is mobile phones.
Yep.
1.5 billion people play on mobile phones. We really started the discussions, internally at least, on Activision Blizzard around the capability they had on mobile and then PC with Blizzard. Those are the two things that were really driving our interest." In other words,
And everybody's interest. If you, like, I think Nintendo is the only company to come out and say, yeah, we gave up on mobile. I don't believe it. I think they'll go back to it. But my phone is running Resident Evil 4 this generation, right? People don't they write off mobile phones, and like, yes, there's a heat issue right now with a lot of these modern games. What about the next generation of phones or the generation after that? They're at that tipping point where mobile phones can do almost the same thing that these consoles can do. The lines have been blurred. The optimization for a lot of these products has hit that point where, like I said at the beginning of the video, do we really need the console forever? It'll always be there for people to buy, but the bigger market is mobile.
Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard to dominate the mobile and the PC space, not the console space. This might be a bit confusing given that a lot of us see Activision as the OG console game maker, but it turns out that they have evolved quite a bit.
It turns out Call of Duty Mobile and Diablo Immortal make tons of money for them. tons. And Diablo Immortal, minus the scummy microtransactions, I played that game to level cap, to world tier 1, I think. It's like I hit level cap, and then I went to world tier 1, and then I stopped playing. That game's pretty good, like all things considered. And so is Call of Duty Mobile. I play Call of Duty Mobile on controller. It's good also. See, the thing is, good games aren't about the best looking graphics in the world. We get caught up in that, right? It's just about a good gameplay experience. And mobile games have caught up with at least 360 generation, or sorry, Xbox One generation level of graphics. So what's next? That's the question. The answer is games like Resident Evil 4 and what's the other one from Ubisoft running on your phone?
Over the years. In fact, 43% of the revenue comes from mobile gaming, which is the company's top performer,
Correct.
largely due to mobile hits like Call of Duty Warzone Mobile. In fact, console gaming is now their worst performing division, only accounting for a quarter of their revenue.
Because look, I know we all like our consoles, right? I like my PlayStation 5, I like my Xbox, I like my Switch. They're just not, like, once tech catches up, you're not going to need them. You're just not going to need those plastic boxes. The cost of the console is going to go down. Xbox was developing a stick that could literally do everything that their console could do, right? Tech's going to get there, and then people are going to, it's going to be about service platforms, like, oh, what popped on the PlayStation store this week versus what popped on the Xbox store. The console thing is like ancillary. It's like to focus in his video on the baffling economics of Xbox. The whole problem is you're only looking at the console and not the other avenues of revenue, which are massive. So yeah, if you just talk about console, okay, Xbox clearly isn't doing as well in the console market, but they've been saying for like, 7 years that that's not their play. Their play is services. Anyway.
Microsoft isn't too concerned about this though, because they're looking to branch out beyond consoles because, well, the Xbox isn't even doing all that well, and there's a massive gaming market beyond that. Would Microsoft actually put so much history behind them?
What did he say in his own video? He said in his own video that the PS2 unit sales on Wikipedia, 158 million units. How many did the PS3 sell? Yeah, so in September 2023, the PlayStation 3 had sold 87.4. So you're talking about the PS2 era, 158 million units, to the PS3 era, 87.4 million units. Right? So you lost sales of 60 million units. What about PS4 total unit sales? 113.5 million. So if you go back to the PS2 era, 158 million units. Wait. Yeah, for the PS2, it was 158 million units. The PS4 had sold 113.5 million units in 2020. No matter how you cut it, console sales are going down, at least for PlayStation and Xbox. And like everybody else got out of the game. Let's continue on. Yeah, so I don't know how to paint the picture any clearer. The console market, it's an old strategy. Even Sony knows that they need to expand beyond it.
And completely pivot their gaming strategy though? Well, if Satya Nadella has one superpower, it's not letting ego cloud his business judgment. If it's better to run servers on Linux than Windows, he'll do it. If it's better to expand Office to iOS devices and put down the Windows Phone, he'll do it. If it's better to kill Internet Explorer and develop a new Edge that runs on Google Chromium, well, he'll do it. So, considering his track record, I don't think he'll hesitate to make a similar decision with the gaming industry.
He literally said, so like, Activision Blizzard, according to his video, made 43% of their revenue from mobile. If the Do you see where the money is? They make fewer mobile games, but it accounts for 43% of their revenue, according to his own video. 43%. I mean, it's right there in his own video. It's not
If the
baffling at all.
Xbox simply isn't cutting it and mobile and PC gaming are working out a lot better, he'll shift Microsoft's focus to mobile and PC gaming. And it seems that this is already starting to happen. The next Xbox is envisioned to be less of a traditional gaming console that competes directly with the PlayStation and be more of a hybrid cloud gaming platform.
And guess what? Look at the Nintendo Switch. When these companies stop trying to compete in the old game and just do their own thing, big successes can happen. I don't think there's much baffling about their economics at all.
What that exactly means is not clear, but one thing is for sure, Microsoft is not afraid to experiment and take risks with the Xbox. That's arguably why they launched two different consoles, the Series X and S, in the first place. They understood that their old approach simply wasn't working, so they wanted to try something new. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this new strategy worked out either, and who knows how the cloud-based console will play out. So the glory days of Xbox may very well be behind us, but don't count out Microsoft just yet.
The glory days are behind us? What's with the pessimism? Wait. I don't even know what to say to that one. Yeah, they're going to make a ton of money. Poor Xbox.
While they may not be the king of console gaming, they may very well become the king of the gaming industry at large. With historically high interest rates, the appeal of bills and bonds is higher than ever, yet traditional brokerages haven't really adapted with the times. They still expect people to use clunky bond tables, scroll through long overwhelming lists, and please consider checking out Silo in the description below. Unlike Microsoft, Sony is killing it with the PS5, but the problem for Sony is that that's the only place they're killing it. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, Sony's killing it in their 50 million install-based console market, but that's it. I mean, I don't think the economics of what Xbox is doing are baffling at all. That's my 2 cents on it. Go check out this person's channel. It's an interesting video. Looks like they made one about Sony. I'm glad I found it. I'm going to subscribe. You know what? I kind of want to subscribe. Boom. Subscribed. Interesting stuff. But I think there's some flawed logic in there. Let me know what you thought about the video and my reactions in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you like my kind of content. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Check out the last video. Thank you to the members for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate you. If you want to become a member, click that join button. Oh my God. Check out the last video I did over here. Subscribe. I'm going to get out of here. Bye for now, everybody.